Good morning, everyone. Few announcements before we begin our worship. Our Region 15 prayer circle this week asks us to pray for St. Paul's United Church in Westville. And our World Council of Churches asks us to keep Bangladesh, Bhutan, and Nepal in our prayers. And happy birthday this week to Marianne Manouche on the 18th. And Marianne's not with us here. She may be with us at home. So if you are Marianne, happy birthday. Our Bible study has finished for this season, and we will not resume until September. So thank you to everybody who did take part in our Bible study. Coffee hour sign-up sheets are still in the narthex. Don't forget that we do need people to help out with this in order to be able to have this each week after worship. Our Ways and Means Committee will meet on this coming Tuesday, May 17th at 7 p.m. via Zoom. And that link will be sent out before the meeting. All our meetings are always open, so the link will be sent to everyone, and you are more than welcome to join us. And we're rapidly approaching the end of May, which means beginning the first week of June, which will be June 5th, our worship services will change from 11 a.m. to 10 a.m. So if you show up at 11, join us for coffee. Also, just wanted to let you know, Miss Piggy, as you come in, we all see Ms. Piggy sitting there, and people are encouraged to put in a toonie or whatever change you have. Last month alone, Ms. Piggy raised over $175 towards our M&S goal. So that alone will help us greatly in our efforts to make our mission and service goal for this year. And one more quick announcement. If you ordered soup to be picked up today, oh, that's what Stephen was going to tell you about. That's great.
I just had one additional thing to say to that, but you started it. I'll finish it off. Yeah, the soup will be ready after the service this morning. There's a few left. If you didn't have an opportunity to buy soup and you'd like to take some home with you, it's $5 per 2-cup serving. And we've got 2 beef and vegetable left, 5 split pea and ham, and 4 corn chowder. So if you got a hankering for some soup right after church, come and see me down at the kitchen. Thanks.
So if you didn't order soup, you still have a little bit of a chance to get some, but there's not a lot left. So with those announcements, I encourage everybody to wave at their neighbor and wish them the peace of Christ. And as we begin our worship, we once again acknowledge that the land upon which we live, work, and worship is by law the unceded territories of the Mi'kmaq people. We offer our deep gratitude for this land, for those who have cared for it before our ancestors arrived. And we commit ourselves to continue to live on this land with respect, seeking justice for all people. The light of the risen Christ shines in our world. We light the Christ candle to remind us to let Christ's light shine. There it is. Let's join together in our call to worship. We gather to worship the God in whom we live and move and exist. We don't need to look towards the heavens to find God. We only need to look around, to look within ourselves, to look beyond ourselves, or to look into the eyes of another. We don't need to listen to the sound of distant thunder to find God. We only need to listen to the music of life, the words of children, to the questions of the curious, or to the rhythm of a heartbeat. We don't need to touch heaven to find God. We only need to feel the wind on our face, the kiss of a loved one, or a hand reaching out to us for help. And so we gather to worship the God in whom we live and move and have our being. Let us join in our opening prayer. Divine mystery, we come as seekers, unsure of what we seek. We come as followers, uncertain of where you will lead us. We come as children, trusting that you love us and will care for us. We come to worship you, even though we don't know how. Divine mystery, by your grace, meet us where we are. Meet us here. Meet us now. Amen. And our opening hymn this morning is number 822 in Voices United, All People That on Earth Do Dwell.
All people that on earth do dwell, sing out your faith with cheerful voice, delight in God whose praise you tell, whose presence gives you rejoice. Know that there is one God indeed, who fashions us without aid, who cleans us and gives us all we need, whose tender care our faith. Enter the sacred gates with praise, with joy approach the temple walls, extol and bless our God always, as we move the Spirit calls. Proclaim again that God is Lord, whose mercies forever sure, whose truth at all times firmly stood, and shall from age to age endure.
Last week we heard the story of Paul and Silas in Philippi in prison. Today we leave Philippi behind as Paul, Silas, and Timothy travel to Thessalonica, where they preached at the synagogue. But their preaching upset some of the Jewish leaders there, and they were driven out of Thessalonica. They proceeded to Berea, where they again preached in the synagogue, but this time were welcomed. Unfortunately, a group from Thessalonica pursued Paul, and he was forced to leave there also. Silas and Timothy, however, remained behind in Berea. Paul was taken by a group of believers from Berea to Athens. And this is where we pick up our story today.
A reading from Acts chapter 17, verses 16 through 31. While Paul was waiting in Athens for Silas and Timothy, he was greatly upset when he noticed how full of idols the city had. So he held discussion in the synagogue with the Jews and with the Gentiles who worshipped God, and also in the public square every day with the people who happened to come by. Certain Epicureans and Stoic teachers also debated with him. Some of them asked, "What is this ignorance What is this ignorant show-off trying to say?" Others said, "He seems to be talking about foreign gods." They said this because Paul was preaching about Jesus and the resurrection. So they so they took Paul, brought him before the city council, the Areopagus, and said, "We would like to know what this new teaching is that you are talking about. Some of the things we hear you say sound very strange to us, and we would like to know what they mean." Because all the citizens of Athens and the foreigners who live there like to spend all their time telling and hearing the latest new things. Paul stood up in front of the city council and said, "I see that in every way you Athenians are very religious. For as I walked through your city and looked at the places where you worship, I found an altar on which it is written, 'To an unknown God.' That which you worship then, even though you do not know it, is what I now proclaim to you. God, who made the world and everything in it, is the Lord of heaven and earth, and does not live in temples made by human hands, nor does he need anything that we can supply by working for him, since it is he himself who gives life and breath and everything else to everyone. From one human being, he created all races of people and made them live throughout the whole earth. He himself fixed beforehand the exact time and the limits of the places where they would live. He did this so that they would look for him and perhaps find him as they felt around for him. Yet, God is actually not far from any one of us. As someone has said, in him we live and move and exist. It is as some of your poets have said, we too are his children. Since we are God's children, we should not suppose that his nature is anything like an image of gold or silver or stone shaped by human art and skill. God has overlooked the times when people did not know him, but now his commands all of them everywhere to turn away from their evil ways. For he has fixed a day in which he will judge the whole world with justice by means of a man he has chosen. He has given proof of this to everyone by raising that man from the dead." And so ends the reading.
city of Athens was not like the different places that Paul had visited so far as he traveled around spreading the gospel of Christ. Athens was a cosmopolitan city, a cultural hub of the Greek world. The majority of people there were highly educated, especially in philosophy, and they loved to spend time debating current issues and ideas. The other thing that was different was that in most places, Paul had gone to the synagogues, to the places of Jewish prayer, in order to speak. The people there knew the Hebrew scriptures and the history of the Hebrew people. Paul used these stories as the base on which to build in order to teach the people about Jesus. But in Athens, there was no such knowledge of the stories on which to build. The people there were unfamiliar with the Hebrew scriptures and instead knew the teachings of the Greek philosophers and of the many religious traditions that were commonly practiced in the Greek world. And so, because they did not know the Jewish backstory that frames the story of Jesus, Paul was forced to find a totally different way to connect with this highly educated and intellectual population. The frame of reference and the worldview through which these people saw the world was was not the message of Jesus. It was not the same as Paul had previously been dealing with. Fortunately, Paul himself was highly educated and well trained in Greek philosophy. Paul was also very good at using whatever he could find around him to make his point. In Athens, he began by complimenting the Athenians on their religious devotion. There were altars to every imaginable god. And just in case they missed anybody, there was an altar to the unknown God. Despite the fact that as a faithful Jew, the huge number of idols in Athens was highly offensive to Paul, Paul used what he could find as a way of connecting with the Athenian people. Paul met them where they were, using their own culture to explain what he had been preaching all along. Paul also connected with the underlying feeling that in some way, the huge number of gods worshipped in Athens demonstrated a desire of the people to connect with the divine. But in the altar to the unknown God, Paul saw a longing that was not being met by all the other gods that were currently being worshipped. And so, Paul used this altar as the foundation on which to build in order to preach the gospel of Christ. That which you worship, then, even though you don't know, is what I proclaim to you. Paul spoke of one God, powerful beyond belief, the source of all life, having created everything, and a God who cannot be replicated in gold or stone. Paul described a God whose form and appearance may be unknown, but Paul went on to say that this God can be known through the presence of the one he raised from the dead. This was the same message Paul had been preaching all along. Paul preached that God, the all-powerful God, beyond human understanding, could in fact be known through the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. And much like he used quotes from the Hebrew scriptures to convince the Jewish people that what he spoke of about Jesus was true, Paul used two quotes from Greek philosophy and tradition to do exactly the same thing for the Greeks. Those two quotes were, "In him we live and move and exist, and we too are his children." It seems to me that in ways, the situation that Paul addressed with the people of Athens is remarkably similar to our modern situation today. Like the Athenians, many people today have little or no knowledge of the foundational stories of the Bible that most of us have been raised on. We can no longer assume that people understand biblical references that we often take for granted. Like the marketplace in Athens that seemed to offer the people an endless array of gods from whom they could choose, modern social media seems to offer every imaginable idea, belief, or philosophy. Unlike ancient times, the majority of people today do not necessarily turn to religion to find their answers. And yet, like those ancient Athenians, many people in our modern context continue to long for something that they often cannot define or describe. They long to find meaning and purpose in life. They long for that unknown God that can make them feel complete. And this search is something that people have always struggled with. I don't know how many of you remember YouTube's U2 song that came out over 30 years ago. I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Any of you remember that song? Well, it seemed to tap into a restlessness at that time. But it is a restlessness that is just as prevalent today as it was back then, or as it was in ancient Athens. The thing is that unless you actually pay close attention to the lyrics of this song, you could miss the entire point. I have climbed the highest mountains, I have run through the fields, only to be with you. People often assume that the song is about an unrequited love. But it's not until the last part of the song that it becomes clear who the you that is being looked for actually is. I believe in the kingdom to come. Then all the colors will bleed into one. You broke the bonds, you loosed the chains, you carried the cross of my shame. But I still haven't found what I'm looking for. The search for meaning, the search for something that will give purpose to life is as old as life itself. But it's also new with each generation. And it is unique to each person. We are all at one point or another seekers. And at one point or another, we've all felt like I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Today, it seems like that quest for meaning has been accentuated by 2 years of living with a world pandemic. Many people have spoken of how, especially during that first lockdown, they were forced to refocus and reevaluate their lives. Being laid off or being forced to work from home, people began to see work differently. With no access to recreational activities and with children home from school, many people began to refocus on family or sometimes on self-care. Other people began to explore new hobbies and discover new interests. And some of those things that we always said we'd get to, whenever we had time, actually did get done. But many people have talked about a fundamental change in their priorities. Many people have talked about finding themselves searching for something more meaningful than simply the pursuit of money or job security. For Paul and for us as a Christian church, the question is not only how we find deeper meaning in our own lives, but how we reach out as a church to those who may have no connection whatsoever with any religious tradition, but who are also seeking for something more. We cannot simply sit back and expect them to show up here and fit into our rituals, which are completely foreign to them. Swiss theologian Karl Barth famously said, "We must hold the Bible in one hand and the newspaper in the other." This is what Paul did in Athens. He reached out to the people by using what was happening in their everyday lives. Paul was speaking to the seekers of his time, even if they didn't know that they were seekers. And he did it by connecting with what was happening in their everyday lives. But by connecting with the altar to the unknown God, Paul was able to connect them with the God who was known and revealed through Christ. Paul was able to reach the people that he spoke to and share the same message he'd been preaching all along. Many people today, including many people within the church, are still seeking for that unknown God. They struggle with or reject entirely the God they see described in the Bible because it just doesn't make sense to them. And yet, in the end, it is the unknown God, the God that cannot be fully explained or understood, the God who remains a divine mystery that connects with people of Athens and which I think connects with people today. It's not about explaining or defining God. It's not about expecting everyone to know the same stories or to believe the same thing. It's about the experience of the divine mystery in the reality of everyday life. So how do we do that? Paul doesn't leave the unknown God sitting on that altar. Instead, Paul assures us that we don't have to stand in front of an altar to find God, because God is actually not far from any one of us. God doesn't have to be explained or defined. In many ways, God is unknown and even unknowable. But when we open ourselves to the experience of God, we can discover the God in whom we live and move and exist. The unknown God, the divine mystery, is not limited to an altar or to a church. The unknown God, the divine mystery, is everywhere and in everything. And if we're willing to search for this God, even in the most unlikely places, we might be surprised to discover that we just might find God is exactly where we are, right here, right now. Amen. Our hymn is number 264, Immortal, Invisible, God Only Wise.
So he was enlightened and accessible. Most blessed, most glorious, the ancient of days, almighty, victorious, thy great name is. Unresting, unhasting, as endless light, nor wanting, nor wasting, thou wast in light. Thy justice like the mountain sky soaring above, thy clouds which are fountains of goodness and love. To all life thou givest, to both great and small. In all life thou livest, the true life of all. We blossom and flourish like leaves on the tree, then wither and perish, what not changeth thee. Thou reignest in glory, thou rulest in light. Thine angels adore thee, all veiling their sight. All praise we would render, oh, help us to see. 'Tis only the splendor of light hideth thee.
As we gather in worship, we offer God our praise and our prayers, but we also offer our gifts. Here at Beacon, we share our financial gifts through placing them on the offering plates at the back of the church, or by making arrangements to give through PAR or online donations. As we sing our offertory response today, we bring our gifts forward, but not just our financial gifts, also the less tangible gifts of our time, our talents, and our commitment. What can I do? What can I say? What can I say? What can I sing? I'll sing with joy. I'll say a prayer. I'll give my best. I'll do my share. Loving God, We ask you to bless the gifts we offer you. These gifts of our financial contributions, but also the gifts of our love, our time, our talents, and our commitment. Bless them all, we pray. Amen. And as we offer our gifts, we also offer our prayers. We offer our prayers for all those whose names have been placed in our prayer jar. But we also offer our prayers for all those whose names remain in our hearts and our minds today. All of those who remain in the hearts and minds of others. And all those people and those situations in our world that trouble us and need our prayers. Amen.
This reading from Minutes and Missions deals with community gardens, an appropriate item for Leah here at Beacon. Nourishing bodies and hearts is Ashraf's story. 1 in 9 people around the world are going hungry, according to the United Nations. Since the pandemic struck, 40% more people in need of a nutritious meal have turned to the Fred Victor Center. This is a mission and service partner. That's one of the reasons why the 240 community gardens it runs are so important. Every day, we'll see 250, 300 people standing outside for food. That is all the encouragement we need to keep growing and cooking. We donate most of the fruits and vegetables to our kitchen, and our participants get fresh veggies and support from us, says Ashraf Rafi. She is Fred Victor's Garden Center coordinator. Today, over 200 families, many living in poverty, grow their own nutritious food at Fred Victor's Gardens, thanks to generous supporters like you. But there's more to the gardens than the food. Ashrafi says children learn what food comes from by gardening, and participants tell her they feel less stress and pain, have more energy, and meet new friends because of the gardens. People from different cultural backgrounds share their vegetables and herbs with each other. Through sharing, they come to appreciate each other. At the core, we are all the same, she says. The gardens has changed Ashrafi's life too. As an immigrant, she says, I came here feeling isolated. My family didn't know where to start, but now I feel I'm standing on my own feet and I know the community. Every day, when I walk home from work, everyone says, Hi, Ashrafi, how are you? They make my day happier. I feel belonging because of the garden. It has changed my life. Thank you for supporting mission and service.
Let us join our hearts in prayer. Divine mystery, you are revealed to us in many different ways, in many different circumstances, and at many different times. But sometimes we only look where we expect to find you. And we miss the opportunities to experience you in the unexpected, in the love that we experience from families and friends. Help us to remember that you are the source of all love, and that in experiencing their love, we experience you. In the beauty of creation, remind us that it is you who has created all things, and that you have tasked us with the responsibility of caring for all that you created. In the blessings we have, good and healthy food, warm and comfortable shelter, free access to medical care and education, protection by police and legal system. Help us to be truly grateful. In those who do not have these necessities of life that we take for granted, help us to see an opportunity to reach out in your love to offer what we can. In those who live with constant fear or pain, help us to see an opportunity to reach out in your comfort and healing. In those places in our world where war and hatred rule the lives of so many, help us to reach out and become your peacemakers. In those times of uncertainty, when we feel overwhelmed by all the wrongs and injustices in our world and all the things that need to be done, help us to turn to you, trusting that you will guide us, motivate us, and enable us to do what you ask of us. Divine mystery, as we struggle to trust more deeply, love more fully, and serve more faithfully, remind us now and always that we are not alone, so that in all that we do, we may truly rejoice and give thanks. Amen. And our closing hymn today is number 642, Be Thou My Vision.
Be Be thou my vision, O joy of heart. Not be all else to me, save heart. Thou art best, Lord, by day or by night. Waking or sleeping, thy presence my light. Be thou my wisdom, my calm in all strife. I ever with thee, and thou in my life. Thou loving parent, thy child will I be. Thou in me dwell, and I work with thee. Be thou my battle shield, sword for the fight. Be thou my dignity, thou might me right. Thou my soul shelter, thou my high tower. Raise thou me heavenward, O power of love. Riches I heed not, nor vain empty praise. Thou mine inheritance now and always. Thou art the only, the first in my heart. Great God of heaven, my treasure thou art. Great God of heaven, after victory won, may I reach heaven's joy, so bright heaven's sun. Heart of my own heart, whatever before, still be my vision, O ruler of all.
Go out from here, knowing that no matter if it's dark and rainy or if the sun is shining bright, God is with us. Go out remembering that it's the rain that makes the flowers grow. Go out from here with the absolute certainty that rain or shine, God is with us now and always. Go with God.
O Christ, we go, our daily labor to pursue. You only you resolve to know in all we think or speak or do.
All right. So come and join us for coffee time and pick up your soup. Thanks.